Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing a 2028 presidential election prediction and one that I think is one of my favorite scenarios I have done so far. This is Republican Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, going up against Democratic Governor of the state or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. And I think, to be fully transparent here, I think this would probably be one of the closest elections and best case scenarios for the Democrats in 2028. I think what we saw in 2022, where Josh Shapiro was able to win by 14.8%, yes, it was against a weaker Republican candidate in Doug Mastriano in terms of electability, but still his impressive win by 14.8% and his ability to get over a lot of Republicans and independents to vote for him, as well as being the governor of a Rust Belt state of Pennsylvania, is a lot of added bonuses that I think make Shapiro a very formidable candidate and probably one of the stronger Democratic candidates they could nominate in 2028. In 2028, of course, it'll be after 4 years as Donald Trump has served as president, so how Trump is doing and his administration's approval ratings at the time are going to be a very important kind of catalyst for what Vance's chances are in 2028. Going off right now with the administration is about approved of by +5 on RCP. I'm not sure if that will stand until 2028. We're going to have to wait and see how the next 4 years unfold. But I think Vance versus Shapiro is a really interesting situation where I think the more people, more Americans get to hear from both of these candidates, I honestly think the more their approval ratings will both go up. Vance right now starts off as in some polls disapproved of, in some polls approved of, and I think a lot of Americans still don't really know much about him. So I expected if Vance is on the top of the ticket, he did 2 to 3 debates, I think more Americans would hear from him and would like him, and I think Shapiro is honestly the same way. So I think Shapiro versus Vance will be really, really close and definitely one of the more interesting election scenarios for 2028. Getting things started, based off the 2024 electoral map, as for 2028, I have Vance starting with about 218 electoral votes, Shapiro starting with about 177. Every state right now in either solid red or solid blue, I have the candidates winning by over 15% margin of victory. The states in gray, I'm going to go more in depth on because I think they'll all be under 15%. But I am going to start with some of the likely states that I think will be over, or will be under 15%, but likely over 5%. I'm going to start with the state of Maine. So Maine and its 2 electoral votes for the statewide numbers, Maine voted for Kamala Harris by about 7 points over Donald Trump. And I do think in a 2028 election environment, instead of after 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency where his approval ratings were bad, it'll be after 4 years of Trump's administration. The Democrats should be more poised to do better than they did in 2024. We'll have to wait and see how everything unfolds. But I think Shapiro would be able to get more than Harris's 7%, at least 8 to 9% in all likelihood in the state of Maine, with Vance at the top of the ticket as well, and Shapiro. But I think Maine's 2nd district will be a likely Democratic win. I think Maine at large will be a likely Democratic win. Maine's 2nd district voted for Trump over Harris by about 10 points. I do still think Vance will win it by a likely margin, but closer to the 5 to 6 number than the 10 number in all likelihood. This puts Vance at 219, Shapiro at 179. The state of New Jersey, this is a state that Republicans are watching very, very closely. It was won by Harris over Trump by 6%. It's a state Republicans are going to try really hard to win in 2025 in the governor's race. This is one that we definitely need to watch going forward. But I think of any Democrat, I think Shapiro does a very good job at keeping this in Democratic hands. And I think he can expand on Harris's Democrat +6 margin of victory in 2024. I think New Jersey goes Democrat, but under 15, but over the 6% number that Harris got. This puts Shapiro at 193. Vance is at 219. Now I'll go to the state of New Mexico and its 5 electoral votes. We just saw it vote for Harris by 6 points versus Donald Trump. And again, in an environment that I think Shapiro will do better than Harris did, there won't be an unpopular Democratic president getting in the way of Shapiro. I also do think Vance may have some struggles trying to get voter turnout to the same levels that Donald Trump was able to do, especially on the Republican side, on the MAGA side. I think New Mexico will continue to be a likely Democratic state in this election scenario. The last likely Democratic state I have right now is the state of Virginia and its 13 electoral votes. This state we just saw vote for Harris over Trump as well, 52% to 46%. I think Republicans with J.D. Vance at the top of the ticket could do very well in the state of Virginia, though I do think Shapiro will probably be able to keep it over 5% and win the state, bringing up his electoral vote numbers to 211. Vance is at 219, and now we're in very familiar territory with the same toss-up states from 2024, but once again decide the 2028 presidential election. I think Shapiro versus Vance for 28 is going to be a very interesting scenario for the toss-up states. I don't think it's going to be like all of them go for one candidate the way Trump did in 2024. I think it's going to be more of Vance wins some and Shapiro wins some, and it ends up being a very, very close electoral vote number. I'm going to start with the state of Minnesota and its 10 electoral votes. We did just see Kamala Harris win the state by 4 points over Donald Trump, and that was with having the governor of the state, Tim Walz, at the top of the ticket. This is a state that I think may actually be poised to go back a little bit more towards the Democratic side, where it's right on the edge between being a likely Democratic state and lean Democratic state. I am putting it as lean Democrat, but I think that's one that could potentially go a little bit more Democratic with Shapiro at the top of the ticket instead of the VP Kamala Harris. Shapiro's at 221, Vance is at 219. We're going to start with the state of Nevada and its 6 electoral votes. Nevada swung a lot towards President Trump's direction. Trump was able to win the state 51% to 47%. Trump got very good turnout in Clark County, getting within 2 points of Harris in Clark County. I think Trump's ties to Las Vegas and his no taxes on tips policy really helped Trump do very well in Nevada. So much so that I think Vance will win the state of Nevada again, but I'm not sure he'll be able to win it by the 4 points number that Trump was able to do it. I am putting it as lean Republican because I do think it does exceed by 1%, but I don't think it exceeds 1% by much. I think it might be literally like 1.2% between Vance and Shapiro in the state of Nevada. So Nevada is certainly a very close one to watch. Now the state of Arizona, we just saw Arizona vote for Donald Trump by 5 points over Kamala Harris, 52% to 47%. Trump was able to get a lot of voters back in Maricopa County, winning it by 3%. And I think in this one, we're also going to see Vance win Arizona by a lean Republican margin. I'm really interested to watch Arizona in 2028 because Trump did have some problems with the McCains in Arizona that hurt him in 2020 and maybe hurt him a bit in 2016. But he'd seemed to really do well in 2024 in Arizona. So seeing Vance at the top of the ticket instead of Trump, I'm interested to see, do Republicans do better in Arizona or do they do worse without Trump driving turnout out as well? So I'm very interested to see how Arizona goes. Though I do think under 5% in lean Republican, I think that's where Arizona starts right now. Now the state of Georgia. Georgia is a very fascinating one because it did vote for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris, 51% to 49%. It's still a very, very close race, though, and it really could go either way in 2028. We did see Atlanta and the surrounding Atlanta suburbs like Cobb County, Gwinnett County, DeKalb County get more Democratic, as well as the rural counties. A lot of great turnout for Republicans. Were able to help the Republicans win here by 2%. This is going to be a real battle in 2028 for the state of Georgia. This is one where I'm really back and forth on. Will it go for Vance? Will it go for Shapiro? But I actually do think in this scenario, there's a real possibility Shapiro may be able to win the state of Georgia, similar to Biden in 2020, where he won it by under like 20,000 votes. I think there's a real scenario that Shapiro could do something similar in 2028. I just think that Shapiro is going to outperform Harris, I think, in a lot of areas. And I think Vance is getting a little less voter turnout in some of the rural areas than Trump did, unless Vance gets, like, if Vance gets every single rural vote that Trump got in 2024, he'll probably be able to hold on to Georgia. But if Vance is not able to keep up with the same numbers that Trump did, even if he falters by 1% to 2% in a lot of the rural areas, that could be enough for Shapiro at the top of the ticket to narrowly overtake him and win the state of Georgia. And in this prediction, that is what I have happening here. So I think Shapiro could win Georgia, and I think it would be under 1%. Now we have North Carolina and its 16 electoral votes. North Carolina is very, very fascinating. It voted for Donald Trump by 3%. I saw something going into the election where a lot of Democrats were confident that if Kamala had a good night, that she may be able to win North Carolina. I think North Carolina is a lot more of a lean Republican state than a tilt Democratic state at the presidential level. But Democrats always seem to target it every election. Obama has been the only Democrat to win it at the top of the ticket since 2008. So I think for the state of North Carolina, I think it continues to be a lean Republican state at the presidential level. Governor and Senate is a different story. But at the presidential level, I think it will stay a lean Republican state in 2028. I'm not sure by how much, but I do think it will stay a lean Republican state, maybe by 1% to 2%. So Vance is at 252, Shapiro's at 237. First, I'm going to do one electoral vote and then the state of New Hampshire, get some of the smaller ones out of the way. Nebraska's 2nd district. We did just see it vote for Harris by about 5 points over Donald Trump. I do think Shapiro will be able to do probably about the same, maybe a little bit better in this district and be able to narrowly win it in the lean Democratic column. Now for the state of New Hampshire, which did vote for Harris over Trump by about 3%. I think that New Hampshire will probably be a state that Shapiro will do very well in. It's a state that typically goes at the presidential level for the Democrats, only going for the Republicans once since the 2000 election. That was the last time it voted Republican at the presidential elections, and almost did in 2016 for Trump. But even then, there was a lot of third-party vote. Trump did the best, actually, of all the Republicans in the 2000s, since 2000, getting 48% of the vote. But can Vance do much more and exceed on that remains to be seen. I think Shapiro will probably do well here. I think he'll win the state by around 3 to 4%, maybe even 5% in the state of New Hampshire. This puts Shapiro at 242, Vance at 252, and once again, this is where the election will be decided in the Rust Belt. And this is where things get really interesting because Vance and Shapiro in this election would both be kind of going for the same supporters here. The difference is Kamala Harris was from California. Rust Belt voters really don't have any relation to her. Shapiro's a different story. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. He, of all the Democratic candidates, I think is uniquely qualified to get a lot of these working class voters back on the Democratic side than a lot of other Democratic candidates. Gretchen Whitmer may be the only other Democrat that I think could do somewhat of a similar job to Shapiro, but I think Shapiro might even do a little bit better than her. But both of them have a strong case to be made of being Midwestern governors, being able to win a lot of these voters back. First, I'm going to start with the state of Pennsylvania. Of course, this state is very, very important for Shapiro and Vance. This is Shapiro's home state. Vance is from neighboring Ohio. This is going to be a complete, total battle for the state of Pennsylvania. We just saw it in 2024 narrowly vote for Donald Trump, 50.4% to Kamala Harris's 48.7%. This is where Shapiro being at the top of the ticket is going to be very, very crucial. Trump's amazing turnout in a lot of Republican rural areas and suburban areas like Bucks County and Northampton were a very big reason why he was able to win it in 2024. With Shapiro at top of the ticket, and I think honestly being from the state of Pennsylvania really helps the Democrats' chances. I think Pennsylvania actually goes in between lean Democrat and tilt Democrat for Shapiro. And I think this is really, really close, but I think it's going to happen because I think Shapiro's ability to get a lot of independent voters and even bring some Republicans over against Vance may actually be easier than if it was against Trump. If it was Trump versus Shapiro, I think it would have been more of a tougher fight. But I think Vance potentially having some voter turnout issues that Trump did not really have in 2024, I think could potentially be a reason why Shapiro is able to win the state of Pennsylvania. Now we have the states of Wisconsin and Michigan. I'll start with the state of Michigan. Michigan's interesting because I believe it either had the largest or just a little bit under. It was 1.4% for Trump in Michigan, and then here it was about 1.7%. So Michigan voted the second most for Trump of the three Rust Belt states. Wisconsin was the closest margin. Michigan, Trump had a pretty big swing here, getting up to 49.7%. If you want to look back at 2020 in the state of Michigan, that's 2024. Let me pull up 2020. 2020, it voted for Donald Trump by 47.8%. So Trump had a very sizable swing in Michigan, going up about 2 percentage points in the state. I think Michigan's a state Donald Trump has had a very unique ability to turn out a lot of Republican voters. And again, can Vance do it? It's very possible he can, but can he do it at the same levels that Trump was able to do? That's the question. Having Shapiro at the top of the ticket instead of Harris, I think gives the Democrats another added boost. And I think Michigan does go very closely for the Democrats. Will it be a very large margin? I'm not so sure. I am putting it as lean Democrat because I think it may go over 1% by like a smidge, like 1.1%, 1.2%. But I do think Michigan with Shapiro versus Vance would narrowly go for Shapiro. Finally, we have the state of Wisconsin and its 10 electoral votes. We just saw it vote for Donald Trump 49.7% to Harris's 48.8%. And this is one where Shapiro to win, he has to do well in Milwaukee and Madison, like Harris did, but do a little bit better, and flip a lot of these counties like Columbia County, Sauk County, and do better in Rock County and Greene County and get these numbers up, and maybe get some inroads in Kenosha and Racine counties as well as making some margins better in Green Bay in Brown County. Wisconsin's going to be very, very close for Shapiro and Vance in 2028. I am going to have Shapiro winning it and complete the trifecta, which continues having these three states vote in unison as they have every single time since the 80s. But I do think Wisconsin is going to be very, very close, and we may see it kind of go back to the way it was in 2020 and 2016, where Pennsylvania and Wisconsin were closer to the Republican side of things than Michigan was. Michigan was the second largest Republican win in 2024. We may see that flip back a little bit in 2028. So right now, my first presidential prediction for 2028 for Josh Shapiro versus J.D. Vance. I do have Josh Shapiro winning a very, very close election where I think Vance does a little bit worse than Trump in a lot of the swing states, but given Trump's margins in 2024, Vance is able to hold on in Nevada, Arizona, and North Carolina. But Shapiro, being at the top of the ticket in his relationship with working class voters, is able to give him very narrow squeak victories in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and just enough to win the election back. I don't see 2028 really being a blowout for either candidate or either party. I think Vance and Shapiro are both very formidable in their own way, and I do think Americans, a lot of them don't know who either of these candidates are yet. So if they're at the top of the ticket, I think both of them would actually be pretty likable, and a lot of American voters would be able to resonate with both of them. So I think it would be a close election, but I do think Shapiro would narrowly edge out this victory because I think his ability to appeal to working class voters and suburban voters would be better than Kamala Harris's. Coupled with 4 years of the Trump administration, it's going to be harder for the Republicans to turn out voters after a polling-wise very unpopular Biden administration when that won't be the situation in 2028. If the Trump administration is doing very, very well, it's possible Vance is able to win Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia and win the 2028 election. But again, we have to wait and see how it goes 4 years from now. But for now, I do have Shapiro a very narrow favorite over Vance and probably one of the best Democrats the Democrats could put up for the 2028 Democratic primary. And just in case I forgot to show you at the start of the video, Shapiro is listed as one of the potential 2028 Democratic potential candidates. He's one of the ones listed on the Wikipedia page if you want to learn more about him. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This was certainly very interesting and very fun for me to do. If you did, make sure to give the video a like, and remember to click subscribe and tap the bell notification so you always get notified when I post a new video, which I do every single day. Sometimes I post 2 videos a day, so make sure you subscribe so you keep coming back for videos just like this one and on a range of elections and politics topics. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button and make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really, really, really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day, so I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.